We live in America and it should be equal justice. This was personal money. This wasn't trying to hide. This was 7 years ago, statute of limitation. And I think in your heart of hearts, you know, too, that you think this is just political. So it's not here that we're coming to defend President Trump. What we're coming to defend is equal justice in America. What we see before us is a political game being played by a local. Look, at just as this isn't New York City. This is just the Manhattan. This is just a borough DA.
Not what Speaker Kevin McCarthy wanted to be talking about this morning, but the possible indictment of the former president is dominating headlines, and Donald Trump remained the center of attention during the Republican retreat in Orlando. Back with us tonight, Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist and former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and former political strategist Shermichael Singleton. He's worked on 3 Republican presidential campaigns and hosts SiriusXM's Urban View. Shermichael, is Kevin McCarthy ever going to be able to redirect attention just to his priorities and away from Donald Trump?
No, and I got to tell you, the retreat is going on this weekend. And I've talked to a lot of Republican friends who work for members who have been involved in a lot of the nuances of the retreat, working on legislative priorities for the party. And Simone, they're just like, bro, we want to move on from this. We're just tired of this. And these are folks who were really adamant about supporting Trump. Some of them even supported him after January 6th. And many people are looking for another candidate, Simone, someone else other than him who can, again, as you and I have discussed in the past, pull in some of those swing voters, pull in some of those suburbanites, because they don't think Trump is it. People want to know, what can Republicans do to deal with this banking crisis, the economic crisis, the Ukraine crisis? But we're not talking about any of that stuff, because we're talking about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels and God knows what else may come up with what's going on in Georgia, which you've talked about.
I mean, I hear Republicans saying this is not what they would like to discuss, but I would like to play what Senator Rand Paul had to say earlier today.
This is a very politically motivated DA. And it's criminal penalties for a campaign violation. Most of these things shouldn't be criminal at all for ordinary citizens, much less for an ex-president, but it's terrible. The federal government refused to do this prosecution, and so a very extreme and radical DA in New York is wanting to make his name off of this, but it's disgusting, and I fear it's going to lead to real problems for our country.
Basil, you know Alvin Bragg, who is the Manhattan DA. What do you think of Senator Paul's comments?
Well, first of all, to go to Shermichael's point, Republicans aren't the only ones that want this guy to go away. Democrats do too. But if you know New York, but if you grew up in New York, Donald Trump was ubiquitous in New York because he wanted to stay in the news. Even in his infamy, he is still in the news, and that it's something we all want to be able to move past. But it's become obviously very difficult to do. Alvin Bragg, as the district attorney, had options to prosecute other cases, but realized that the office actually didn't have the tools to go after the business dealings, which are some of these other cases that I think are going to reside really within the Attorney General's office, where he also worked on some of the Trump Foundation, Trump business cases before the current AG was in office. So he's been dealing with this for a long time. Looking at what was in front of him, he said, this fits with sort of within our purview. This fits within our office. Let's take a look at it. And now we're at the place that we're in. Whether he indicts or not, I do think that, he has a history working with white-collar fraud in the private sector, in a private firm. He has a history at the U.S. Attorney's Office and, again, at the New York State Attorney General's office. He is not going to play to the cameras. He is going to be thoughtful and methodical. And so, he's consistently been the target of Republican ire since he ran and campaigned on criminal justice reform. The former Republican Congress member who ran for governor last year used every opportunity to say that if he were to win, he would take Alvin Bragg out. Not even sure if legally that's even possible. But this has been something he's been the target of all of this anger and hate in New York, and it's now just shifted nationally.
So Alvin Bragg is no stranger to this. Shermichael, you invoked looking for, Republicans are looking for another candidate. And Ron DeSantis is that other candidate for some Republicans, allegedly. And he spoke about Trump's potential indictment yesterday, and he was immediately attacked by the former president on his social media site, Truth Social. Do you think DeSantis can withstand a Trump onslaught, if you will?
It's interesting because what a lot of Donald Trump supporters have been doing, you've seen Jeb Bush sort of tacitly signal that he's endorsing DeSantis. Paul Ryan, who sits on the board, who's not in the race, by the way, former governor of Florida, George W. Bush's brother. Paul Ryan, who sits on the board of Fox News, has stated privately and publicly now it will be someone else but Trump. Ron DeSantis' name has come up as well. And what Trump is doing, and some of his supporters have said, well, these are rhinos. These are individuals who aren't really conservative. They're from the establishment. They don't really understand the grievances of the Republican base. And I will say there may be some credence to that because, Simone, Trump, and I've talked to folks who still work for him, he's raising a ton of money right now. He's seeing his poll numbers start to increase. Ron DeSantis is seeing his poll numbers start to decrease. Now, this is temporary. This may change in the next several weeks, depending on what happens here. But it is a signal that Donald Trump's control and command of the Republican Party is something that Republicans cannot ignore, even if the party wants to move on, which I think we absolutely should. We need someone else.
Well, look, we are a long way away from a Republican debate stage at the end of August, but I think this is notable. Like you say, Republicans want to move on. Basil, you have talked about the fact that Democrats, too, would like to move on from Donald Trump. What else are you hearing? And I'm wondering, do you expect to hear some of these DeSantis versus Trump attacks echoed in a general election next year from the Democratic candidates?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I have to think that for what Democrats are going to be focused on really is a legislative agenda. You know, I learned very early in this business, if you see a snow boulder or a snowball running down the hill, you don't get in its way. And, you know, the attacks that DeSantis or any other candidate going up against Donald Trump, anything that's going to be inflicted on either candidate on the GOP side, Democrats are just going to focus on a legislative agenda. Hakeem Jeffries has been great in just keeping the caucus together and unified. And from the point of view of the voter, and I try always center the voter in this, what is the voter going to see? They're going to see a unified Democratic Party that's focused on getting things done. You know, there's a time, we're also at a time when union membership is actually ticking up a bit. So the coalitions that bring Democrats to the voting booth, I think, are starting to get stronger and stronger as we get deeper into the cycle. And on the GOP side, they're going to just be calling each other names. And I think Democrats can focus on weaponization. DeSantis talked about it with Alvin Bragg, but the reality is there's a lot of evidence to suggest that DeSantis himself is weaponizing his seat in the Florida State House with all of the policies from the African-American AP studies to meddling in local school board elections. So a lot of evidence that Democrats can point to.
Look, as I used to tell the candidates I used to advise back in the day, what are folks going to knock a door with? That's what people need to be focused on right now. Folks at home, take out your phones, Google Scott Walker. I think that Ron DeSantis may just be the Scott Walker of 2024. Basil Schmeichel, Shermichael Singleton, thank you both very, very much.